What's up, downtown? How are we doing? Thank you for the greeting. Tyler, thank you for the embarrassment. I appreciate that. You know, on most occasions, we actually show the message on the screen behind me. Usually that's Chris Galanos, our lead pastor, maybe Clayton Walker, our executive pastor. Clayton actually taught this past week. But I have the privilege of speaking to you today, and so I'm excited about that. Thanks for having me up here and enduring and not throwing anything. Really grateful for that as well. So last week, there was a friend of mine, he's a faithful volunteer at our downtown campus, and he was telling me that he found out I was teaching this weekend. And so he said, I want you to know, I canceled my Alaskan cruise so I could hear you teach. I'm like, oh gosh, like no pressure. And then he follows that up and says, I couldn't get a refund, so don't blow it. And so I really appreciate Joe's greeting. Joe, I hope we can be friends after this. So lately I've been reflecting a lot on the downtown campus and all that God's doing here. And to be honest, I'm just meditating on all that I've seen here over the past 10 months. See, I've only been here for about 10 months. I moved from the Houston area. And so there's been a lot of really cool activity that we've seen happen here as a result of prayer and God just doing amazing things. And so I've been meditating on some of that, and I want to share some of it with you because I want you to share in my enthusiasm for what God's doing here. So I want to start with a statistic. This year, our downtown campus has seen over 649 people commit their life to Jesus. Isn't that amazing? Absolutely amazing. And get this, 368 of them got baptized this year at our downtown campus. I think it's awesome. Look, I don't know about you. I don't know what your background is. I don't know what church experience you have, but I know for me, this is all new experience for me. I mean, to see God move in the way that he has is incredibly humbling. And I just have loved every single minute of it. So just meditating on what God has done this year, it really has given me this desire to revisit how we got to this point, what brought us here, why are we in a bus station? Like, whose crazy idea was that? Ooh, look at that rundown bus station. Let's meet there for church, you know? And so I began to thinking about some of that, and I wanted to revisit it. I want to share some of it with you of how this campus came into existence, why we're here, what brought me here, and then where I see us going. What's my vision for this campus? So this campus opened up a little over 2 years ago, and it was kind of an emergency launch. Like they weren't anticipating launching as early as they did. They got a contact that week. They were told, hey, we need to launch this Sunday. They weren't able to publicize the launch, and so the staff's just freaking out. They have no idea, is anybody going to show up? I mean, we believe in God, that God can do amazing things. He can bring tons of people, but we have done nothing to get people to come, and so we're a little nervous about this. That first Sunday here, over 500 people came. 20 people got baptized that first Sunday, and I think to me, that just gauges God's activity here. I mean, God has been doing things here from the very beginning, and he continues to do amazing things. This past Easter, we had 1,700 people, the most people we've ever had. That's a 1,200 person increase from the day they launched 20 months prior to that. Absolutely amazing. And since opening, this will freak you out, man. I was like, whoa, what? Since this campus opened in 2011, we have seen 1,445 people commit their life to Jesus. Absolutely crazy. 797 of them got baptized. I mean, it's just awesome to look back and to see what God is doing. It's remarkable. And so here's the thing. I say all of that not to brag about anything that we've done, because to be honest, the only person you can credit any of this to is God. I mean, these numbers blow me away. These are actual people. These are almost 1,500 people that have said, I want to commit my life to Jesus, and I'm going to proclaim that to the church. I mean, that's phenomenal, and that's only something God can do. So about a year ago, I was visiting Lubbock, and I came for an interview with Chris Galanos and Clayton Walker and some of the other staff, and I ended up coming on the 5-year anniversary weekend. How many of you were here for that anniversary weekend? Okay. And so on that weekend, they showed a documentary called Awakening. How many of you have seen the Awakening DVD? Show me your hands. Okay, so few of you have seen that. Listen, you need to see it. It's incredibly inspiring. The documentary it has chapters in it, and they all point to what God has done at Experience Life as a result of prayer. The chapters are answered prayers at Experience Life, and so it's incredibly powerful. There's a section on that about how downtown campus came into existence, and I wanted you to see it. And so I'm going to encourage you to check this out.
In late 2009, we knew we were going to have to do something about our facility because we were just running out of room. And so we sensed that we needed to approach the congregation about possibly building a new facility for our Southwest campus. And so I remember during that time we're praying, God, we pray that you provide us with the funds, pray that you provide us with the land. All of a sudden, this couple in our church comes up to us one day and says, hey, that land that you're looking at there on South Upland, we'd like to buy it for you and give it to you as a gift. We just thought, oh my gosh, Lord, what a powerful answer to prayer. Now we got land, we're ready for a building. And so we came up with this campaign called Vision 2010. We were gonna try to raise all the funds that we would need so we could build this building debt-free. So January 2010, in February, we present this vision, encourage people to give so that we can build this facility. We had met with some architects. We had gotten the cost of this facility, which was high, very high, because our budget has never kept up with our growth. We need this size facility, but we don't really have money for it. So we're hoping in this campaign to raise the money. So we do the campaign, and we raise a good deal of money, but it's way, way short of what we would need really to be able to get into a new Southwest facility and feel good about it financially. And so at that point, we just started praying and saying, Lord, what do you want us to do? We just really don't believe we should take on this kind of debt. We don't want this kind of debt, but we need another place to meet. We're at our room. What do you want us to do? So we started praying as a staff in our prayer meetings. God, give us wisdom to know what the next step is. And a friend calls me up one day. His name is Dwight. He said, hey, let's go have some lunch. We have lunch. He said, I want to show you something downtown. I said, cool. So he took me downtown to this old bus station. It was an old TNM&O bus station, and it was a wreck. There was this terminal, and then there was a place where they parked the buses, this barn. It was huge. It was like 40,000 square feet, but it was a wreck. And he said, look at this facility. Isn't this amazing? And I'm like, sure, yeah, for what? He said, I think that this would be a great location for one of your campuses. And I remember at the time I was with another guy that was on our staff. We just had no vision for it. I mean, we're looking at this old, rotten bus station going, I don't think we could have a campus here. I mean, renovating this thing, there's no telling what that would cost. There's no way that's going to work. And so we just dismissed the idea entirely. Kept praying, God, what do you want us to do about our Southwest campus? What do you want us to do? And after a period of months, we continued to be reminded of this conversation we had had with Dwight down here at our downtown, at this downtown location, this bus station. And we sensed the Lord saying, hey, I want you to explore that a little further. So we talked to Dwight again. We said, hey, let's look at the building again. We look at it, and all of a sudden the Lord opens our eyes, and we have a vision for this downtown bus station becoming an eLife campus. So we had these funds that were directed toward our Southwest campus that we had raised in Vision 2010, and we just asked people if they'd be willing to redirect those funds that they had given toward the Southwest campus toward initially a downtown campus, and then we'd look at building a Southwest campus later. And almost everybody was willing to redirect the funds, and so we had just what we needed to do all of the renovations of the downtown campus with cash.
So that summer of 2011, we were always looking for when we were going to be able to launch the downtown campus. And just the nature of construction made it really hard to know when they were going to be through and when we could launch this campus. And so we had a launch team, we had volunteers that we were training and doing launch team meetings with anticipating, knowing that we were going to launch this campus this fall. We just didn't know when.
We were eating lunch one day, and I got a phone call from Clayton.
I called him and I said, hey, Mark, if we don't launch the downtown campus this weekend, we could possibly turn away 1,000 people. And we don't want to do that. I know this is going to be impossible. There's so much left to do in order to have this campus be functional for us this weekend, but we need to do whatever it takes.
And I laughed at him. I said, yeah, that's real funny, man. Wow, can you imagine? Like, oh, that would have been horrible. And he said, no, we're serious. And despite the fact that I probably wanted to quit multiple times that week just because there was so much work to do, the Lord rewarded us for going out of our way to make sure people could have a seat.
And what was so cool about that day is it just reminded us that every time we've stepped out in faith, God has responded. He's rewarded our faith. He's rewarded the sacrifice, and again showed us that He's in control. Again showed us that He is the God of the impossible, that He can do anything, even things that we think are impossible. He's capable of doing, and every time we've stepped out in faith, God has responded, and He's delivered, and He's moved and worked in powerful ways.
Very cool. Did you recognize our worship leader, Mark Tatum? I know our church is divided right now, short hair, long hair. I think we should solve that problem right now. You guys want to vote? Okay, we'll move on. You know, when I talked to Mark, and I talked to Mark about what those days were like, again, I wasn't here. Every time I talk to him, I think he's going to throw up on me. I mean, he gets nauseous when he looks back and he thinks about all the sacrifice and the time and the energy and how exhausted he was and the stress and the anxiety. And yet, I have a feeling he would do it all over again, to see all that we've seen over the past 2 years. And so not only am I thankful for Mark, but I'm thankful for everyone else who was a part of launching this campus. In fact, I'm going to embarrass you for just a moment, since Tyler embarrassed me and you were a part of it. If you've been a part of our downtown campus since the beginning, around the beginning, 2.5 or a little over 2 years, will you stand for a minute? I just want to see who's here that was a part of that. We had a lot of people at our early service. Very cool. Y'all remain standing just for a minute. How many of you standing where you came from the Southwest campus? Cool. Listen, I just want to thank you. I just want to thank you for the investment you made. You guys can have a seat. You know, you guys also made sacrifices, and I know it's been challenging and hard. And so we're just grateful for everybody who had a part in getting us to where we're at right now. So the first Sunday, the staff launched this campus. Again, they didn't know if anybody was going to come. They were completely stepping out in faith because God called them to. And yet was just curious, is anybody come? I think they had about 500 people. They had 20 people get baptized. And along the way, we've seen God continue to do miraculous things. The scale is simply getting bigger. A few weeks ago, we had an Una Shamed series, Unashamed. And in that series, we saw 227 people get baptized here at our downtown campus within a couple of weeks. It's amazing. I mean, we continue to see God show His faithfulness in people's lives being changed. And it's just awesome. It's awesome to be a part of it. And you know, many chapters have been written. Chapters before I got here, chapters before some of you have gotten here, and chapters continue to be written of what God is doing at Experience Life, and we hope to write many more. And hopefully you'll be a part of it. I wanted to kind of share with you how I got in the mix, what brought me into the story. And hopefully it'll just show again how God has been working behind the scenes and aligning all this perfectly. So Experience Life started in 2007, September of 2007. How many of you have been around since the beginning? Just curious, hands. Anybody? See, I'm just seeing a couple. And so it started in the beginning, September of 2007. I was in Shallowater at the time. I was a youth pastor. And then my last year there, I was there 7 years. Last year, I was an associate pastor there. And in April of 2007, I left Shallowater to go to League City, which is southeast of Houston. And I was a part of a church there for 6 years as the high school pastor. I never heard about Experience Life in that time. Well, about a year and a half into being in League City, I began to hear stories trickle down to me about Experience Life and what God was doing here. Now, you have to understand, I have a lot of relationships in the Lubbock area. There are people I care about that are far from God. I'm seeing friends, family begin to come to church for the first time. And it had a soft place in my heart because I see what God is doing through this church. And so it began to move me. I began to get really curious. Well, eventually I found out that Clayton Walker was on staff here. Clayton's our executive pastor. He's the guy that spoke this past weekend. And so Clayton and I, we went to school together. We went to Wayland Baptist University. We're both youth pastors at the same time. We were doing youth ministry in the Lubbock area, and we kept in touch. And we would talk a little bit here and there. Well, I found out he was here at Experience Life. And so I said, hey man, I'm coming in town. I'd love to have lunch with you. I'd love to just check out a service, see what all this is about. And that's kind of how it started. That began a tradition. Every time I was in Lubbock, I went to a prayer gathering. I went to a service, and I had lunch with Clayton. And I just wanted to see, what is God doing? I wanted to see. And all the stuff I'm hearing, I wanted to experience it. And so, Clayton would offer me a few positions down the road, but none of them really hit my heart because my heart was to be a campus pastor. And I know that sounds weird. Many of you have never even heard of that title. But for me, I was at a church that was multi-site. We had campuses that we had launched while I was there. And so I saw what a campus pastor looked like, and I said, that's what I want to be. That's what I want to do. And I knew, God gave me clarity, that is what you're going to do next. And so Clayton never really offered me one of those. And then a year, about the time this campus opened, he talked to me and he said, hey, I wanted to see if you're interested in being a campus pastor. Now listen, that was exciting for me. I mean, that was so exciting for me. That's what I wanted to do. I mean, the opportunity to come back to Lubbock where we had family, to be with Texas. There were too many Aggies in the Houston area. Let's just acknowledge it, okay? Every time I saw a Red Raider in Walmart or anywhere, I'd pull them over on the side of the road, like, let's talk, because, I mean, seriously, you don't see them very often. And so I felt like I want to get back to Raider country, right? So that was part of it. I've been hearing about this church. It's the only church in Lubbock. I said, I want to be a part of a church like that. And then it was the exact role that I wanted. But here's the thing. God didn't call me to come. God didn't give me or my wife a peace about coming at that time. So we could have been here from the beginning, but we didn't feel led to. And I have to say, that was testing our faith. God was testing my faith. He was stretching my faith. And so time passes. I become content where I'm at. My wife and I feel like, well, we need to be content where we are. And if God is calling us to stay here in Houston, we will stay here until we die. And we got content, and we began to get really excited about the future there. I had my leadership at the church I was at affirm me and said, hey, we want you to consider being a campus pastor down the road. And so there's just this, affirmation that, hey, trust me, we'll take care of you. And then about a year from the time Clayton originally contacted me, I get a text from Clayton. It's 9:00 at night. I'm getting ready for bed. I know that makes me sound old, but let's face it, I'm getting there. So I'm in my bachelor bath, and I'm telling you, I can remember this so clearly. I get a text from Clayton saying, hey man, I really need a campus pastor at Southwest or downtown. Do you know anybody like you? And I'm just like, ugh. And I'm telling you, I remember this so clearly. I was like, dang it, Clayton, dang it. And for 30 minutes, I said that. I was cursing Clayton. I was like, dang it, Clayton. And then I just started to pray, and I just felt like God said, give him a call. So I called Clayton, and from that moment, and here's the thing, I was afraid of disappointment. I was afraid that God would say, it's not your time. I was afraid something wouldn't work out. And yet I called Clayton, began the process, and I'm telling you, we got more and more and more excited about the opportunity to come. And God affirmed it to us over and over and over again that this is where we needed to be. And the thing that really sealed the deal for me was not, I listened to a dozen podcasts online. I watched all of Mark's videos. They were funny. I liked that. But what really sealed the deal for me was when I came to visit. When I came and I experienced, first time I ever walked in this campus. Here's what I loved about this campus. If there was any question which campus I wanted to be at, that was solved when I walked in here. And here's what I loved about it, the diversity. I love the diversity of this campus. I love the fact that we have people of, mostly a young group, but we have people of all ages, all occupations, different stages of life, different races, different income levels, different backgrounds. But this is by far the most diverse church I've ever been a part of. And I was attracted to that. I loved that about our downtown campus. Another thing that really attracted me to our downtown campus was actually the documentary. And I shared that with you earlier, how I watched this documentary. I'm seeing how prayer is a huge value for the church, and it's something that I long to be a part of. So the thing that really sealed the deal for me was Monday night prayer. I went to Monday night prayer, and I saw dozens of people lining up around the side waiting to get on a mic to pray. And they were thanking God for all that God was doing for them, all that God was doing in their life. And I was able to hear all of these prayers from all these people expressing gratitude to God for how God used Experience Life to change their life. And it made a huge impression. And I'm going to step back and I'm going to tell you a story that I forgot to mention earlier. When I got off the plane, God already began to affirm this calling here. So I step off the plane into this, large, overcrowded, busy Lubbock International Airport. And I'm trying to find my way, it's really confusing. And I go to the Enterprise counter to get my rental car. And there was a guy there, a young guy right out of college, and this guy said, "So what are you here for?" And I said, "Well, I'm actually here for an interview." And he said, "Oh, great, which company?" And I said, "Well, it's actually not a company. I'm actually here to interview with a church." And he said, "Which church?" And I said, "Well, it's Experience Life. Have you heard of it?" He said, "Oh, man, I love that church." And he starts telling me his testimony. He said, "When I was in 7th grade, my parents got divorced, and it shattered me. I turned my back on God, and I haven't been back to church." And he said, "When I went to Texas Tech University, and I don't remember how, but something brought him to Experience Life." And he said, "Listen, you have no idea the impact Experience Life has made in my life, and it's made in many, many, many people's lives." I mean, what an awesome, I was like, "Chris, did you pay him to say that?" That was smooth, man. I mean, what an impression to receive as soon as you get off the plane. But again, Monday night prayer was huge for me, and here's why. I think prayer should be one of the absolute most important values of the church. And I've been a part of a lot of great, healthy churches, but I've never seen prayer be the value. And for this church, it was. I want to read a verse for you, Ephesians 6, verse 18. It says this. It says, "Pray in the Spirit at all times and on every occasion. Stay alert and be persistent in your prayers for all believers everywhere." Look, this is giving direction as a follower of Jesus. We need to be persistent in our prayer life. We need to pray on every occasion. We need to pray all the time. We need to pray for other believers. We need to pray for unbelievers. And I love the fact that at every level of this organization, this church, whether it's independently as a staff member, whether it's as a staff as a whole, or whether it's a church, we value prayer. I love the fact we have a prayer gathering once a week. That we say, we don't want to do this on our own. We're not just trying to recruit a bunch of talent. We depend on God heavily to do what he does around here. And we don't even want to try to do what we do without him. I think it's awesome. It really moved me. There was a book I read in college called Fresh Wind, Fresh Fire. We have it at a resource center. I read this book in college, and it forever marked the way I viewed church. It forever marked the way I viewed how essential prayer was in the life of a church. See, it's about a pastor named Jim Cymbala, and Jim Cymbala was a part of a church that was dying. It was dying. It was falling apart. And he basically lifted his hands up and he said, "I don't know what to do anymore." And he said, "I realized that I was completely depending on myself and that me nor my church valued prayer. We weren't seeking God. We weren't depending on God to work and to do something powerful." And he said, that changed the direction of our church. He said, "I began to cast vision with our church. We began to have a weekly prayer meeting. And this is what he said to his church. Keep in mind, we too have a Tuesday night prayer gathering. Just thought this was cool. He said this, from this day on, the prayer meeting will be the barometer of our church. What happens on Tuesday night will be the gauge by which we will judge success or failure, because that will be the measure by which God blesses us. He's saying we will measure our success not by how many people we come, but by how many people come to our prayer gathering. We will measure our success not by what we can accomplish, but what God will accomplish through us. And God certainly did bless that church. Complete turnaround. Went from dozens of people to thousands of people. And it gave me a vision of what I wanted to see in a church. And that was the number one thing that brought me here. And here's what where I envision us going. I think prayer is huge. We have chapters that have yet been to be written. We have chapters that haven't been written yet. And so what's that going to look like? Is it something we can think up on our own, something we can do up on our own, or are we asking God to do something miraculous? Are we asking for answered prayers? Are we asking for him to work, to write a story far better than a story that we could write? I believe this church is a part of a growing movement in this area. I really do. But I'm not satisfied and I'm not content. I want more. I want God to work in far greater ways than he even already has. You know, we have a vision as a church to start multiple campuses throughout West Texas. We want campuses all over this region. And the reason we do is not to make the name of Experience Life great, but to make his name great. We want people to experience all that God has for them in this life. And so here's the thing. Here's what I want you to keep in mind. There were people that came from the Southwest building, and they came and planted themselves here to make this a success. There were people that gave their finances. There were people that actually gave up their dream of having a building before we had a building so that we can meet in this place. There were people that gave up their time and their energy to build what has happened here. And I'm grateful for those people. And listen, I don't want to lean on Southwest to do all the work. I want us to rally the troops, because I want us to be an influential part, a huge contributor as we expand and we grow more campuses down the road. I want you to help. I want you to join our core team. It's not something you sign up for. It's not something you check on the card. It's simply saying I'm on mission. It's saying that I understand that I will do whatever it takes to make sure we see more people come to know Jesus. Are you ready to do that, to join our core team? Here's what that looks like. It means that those are the people that are faithful to pray. Those are the people that are faithful to give. Those are the people that are faithful to volunteer, to be in a life transformation group, to lead a life transformation group. Those faithful to take next steps, to say, I'll give everything I have so we can expand God's kingdom. A core team, they band together, they join arms, and they say, we're going to join together for the joint purpose of seeing as many people come to know Jesus as possible. You know, Chris Galanos, our lead pastor, he started a core team when he launched the Southwest campus. Clayton Walker, he started a core team when they launched this campus. Clayton started a core team when they launched the Amarillo campus. And we're not ready to do that yet, but what we are ready to do is say, are you ready to get on mission and to be a part? Because when that time comes, I want to call you up. And I want you to already be taking some of these steps and to already be ready for when that moment comes. And when we call you to do that. Some of you are like, bro, it's my first time. Like, you're freaking me out, man. I'm not ready to make that kind of commitment. Listen, I get it. I'm not really talking to you in this moment, okay? Like, relax, breathe, just take a pass. Don't worry about it. But listen, if you're a follower of Jesus and you've been committed to Experience Life as far as attending for a while now, and maybe you've been holding back on taking some of the next steps you need to, take them. Take them. God calls us to be obedient, to stretch ourselves, to step into what he calls us to do. And some of us need to take some of those next steps. And so I'm going to talk to you about what a core team looks like. so that you guys can know if you're ready to make this commitment of saying, I want to contribute, I will do whatever it takes so that people can know Jesus. Here's the first thing. This is the easy one. Faithfully attend weekly and bring someone with you. Listen, I don't know how regular you come, but I think it's incredibly important to come on a regular basis. And I think it's important to our faith to get connected in the community, to serve in the community, to be a part of what's happening here. But here's what's something I know you're outstanding at. You guys are amazing at inviting other people. I mean, when I make first-time guest calls, I meet people in the lobby. When I talk to people at the Next Step Center, they tell me they were invited by somebody else. And if you haven't done that yet, do it. Start thinking about who you can invite to come with you. Here's the next thing. Start volunteering. Start volunteering. If you're a regular attender, don't just be satisfied attending. Ask how you can contribute. And you may look around and you may think, hey, this is polished, this looks good, they don't need any help. We do need help, but it's more than that. Some of you question if you have anything to offer, and you do. I mean, the scripture says we all have a place in how the church functions, and if we don't all participate, it's not functioning properly. So start volunteering. Here's the third thing. Start tithing. We love to talk about this one, right? Start tithing. And what that means is we simply recognize that everything we have is a gift from God. Everything we have is His. And He simply asks that we give 10%, a very small portion of what we have, back to Him for kingdom work so that people can come to know Jesus. And so consider doing that. And here's the beauty of our church. I love this. We do a thing called the 3-month tithe challenge. So listen, if you give for 3 months and you don't feel like it has grown your faith or that God has rewarded you in any way, we will guarantee every cent back, no questions asked. It's pretty awesome. Not a lot of churches do that. We will do that. We want you to take steps and grow your faith, and if that's going to help you take that step, have that security. Here's the fourth thing. Get involved in a life transformation group. Get involved in an LTG. That's a small group. They meet in homes. We want to encourage you to get in a community and surround yourself with people who are going to genuinely care about you, who are going to pray for you, who are going to hold you accountable, who are going to encourage you, who are going to care for you when you're down. Get in an LTG. Fifth thing, lead an LTG. We need a lot more people at our downtown campus to step up and to start leading groups. And so if you've been in group 6 months, a year, longer, I want you to consider stepping out there and leading an LTG. I don't want there ever to be issues with people finding a group here at our campus due to lack of groups or leadership. And so I want to challenge you. If you've been sitting in group for a while now, it's time. Step out there. Ask your leader, how can I apprentice you? How can I learn what you do so that I can do it myself? We have a vision. We've been told by Jesus to make disciples. That means that we teach people everything Jesus has taught us, that we're raising people up, we're grooming them. And so who are you grooming? Who are you discipling? Here's a sixth and final thing. Attend and participate in our prayer gathering. This is the most important. Listen, we value prayer as a church. I want this to be our number one priority as a church. Come, just check it out. Listen, I'm not going to put a mic in your face, okay? I'm not going to make you stand or pray out loud. You can participate as much as you want to. You can sit back and just observe and say, bro, I'm just checking this out. And that's cool. Just come, check it out, see what God's doing. It's awesome, it's powerful, God's working and moving. I had a dream the other night. I don't know if this was a dream that God gave me or if it's just a dream that it's my heart desire, but I had a dream that we were at a Tuesday night prayer gathering. I'm here in this place right here, and I'm looking out, and this room is packed beyond capacity. The back doors, wide open. I see people in the lobby, shoulder to shoulder, barely any room for breathing, right? I see these curtains opened, and hundreds of people peering in through the windows, taking in the experience, wanting to be a part of what was happening here on Tuesday night. I would love to see that happen. We have 175 people on average that come at Tuesday night prayer. That should double for me. I think by February, we should have over 350 people coming to our prayer gathering. And I think God would honor that. I think he would reward that. I think we would see God surpass any of our expectations. He would blow us away with his faithfulness if we would make prayer even more of a priority of our church. So I want you to consider that. Remember the eLife documentary I mentioned earlier? Again, each chapter was an answered prayer. We have next chapters that haven't been written yet. And so I want us to be a church that calls out to God and say, God, you write the story for us. We don't want to put God in a box. I mean, do you believe that God can do the impossible? A few of you do. Do you believe that God can do the impossible? I believe they can. And I want us to step out in faith. Listen, if you struggle with that, if you struggle understanding or believing what God can do, keep coming. Because like the people, these are not just statistics, those are real people. We see God do miraculous things here. I'm just not satisfied. I just want more. I'm not content, and I don't think I should be. And I don't think you should be either. I want to pray that God would write the next chapters. And I want you on board. Let's pray together. Father, I pray that you would speak to us, God, that we would have this deep longing, this deep desire, this craving to know you more. Father, I pray that you'd give us vision for what this region would look like if we had campuses all over. How it would change this community, possibly change Texas, the nation, or the world. Father, we want you to be more known. We want people to experience all that God has for them. And so, God, we just pray that you would work in people's lives, that you would surpass any of our expectations or goals this year, and that we would see you move in miraculous, powerful ways. I pray for the people in this room, they feel this nudge. They feel like you're prompting them to take a step forward, to take a next step, to get more involved, to say, I want to be a part of the court team and do whatever it takes so that people can know God. Father, I pray for those people, God, you would give them the courage to step forward and to take that next step, not to let that feeling pass. And I pray that you give all of us a desire to truly trust you, that you would increase our desire to pray, and that we would see you do miraculous things. All these things we pray in your name. Amen.